Hello, everyone. Welcome to another live. This is very impromptu, but for some reason, my addiction video, I guess it got put on a lot of people's notifications today. And I guess a lot of people at the end of today's video, they were recommended my addiction video at the end of it. So I got a lot of comments from newer subscribers who haven't seen that video with a lot of questions. And I thought that this would be a really good opportunity to answer those questions. Uh, Give me just a second. Also, if you haven't watched today's video, I highly encourage you guys to go watch it. I know a lot of you guys are only here for the story times and lifestyle videos, but guys, this is a really good deal and a really good company, and I would really, really, really appreciate it if you guys supported me, because when you support these companies, you support me, and I only take sponsorships from companies that I believe in, and Lily Silk is one of them. You can go to lilysilk.com. Get yourself a silk pillowcase, and you can save 12% off at checkout with the code MORN12. Okay. So I'm going to read the first bigger question that I got. I got it about, I don't know, 45 minutes ago. From one of my newer subscribers. She's probably only been subscribed to me for maybe about 6 months. And like I said, a lot of people got recommended my addiction video today after today's video. So I've gotten a lot of questions on this video in particular. So the question was, I'm 100% not trying to be judgmental. I genuinely want to understand. With all the warnings and stories that you hear about people ruining their lives with drug addiction, what made you decide to try to H for the first time? I can only imagine what it would be like to be in that situation, but just feel like I'd be so worried about spiraling out of control and it taking over my life that I can't imagine even trying hard drugs. Did you just not care? Did you think you would be able to try it without getting addicted? Why even take the chance of trying it if you know how bad it could end up going? Again, I know those questions probably sound ignorant as fuck, but I hope you take it the way that it's intended, which is genuine curiosity. I've never struggled with addiction, so it's hard for me to put myself in that headspace, but I would love to understand. That question is from Aaron underneath that video. So, if you have never been in addiction, none of this is going to make sense. It is going to sound like a really easy thing to set back and in the moment be like, absolutely not. This is crazy. Which, trust me, when before my addiction really even started, I was hanging out with people where I was around drugs quite often, and I was offered drugs quite often. And then I went through a very intense miscarriage and had to have a surgery and was prescribed pain medicine. That's where things really started for me, because that surgery where I was prescribed that pain medicine, that pain continued past just like a 30-day prescription. And I was on pain pills for a lot longer than probably what most cases that are in that scenario go through. So my addiction did not start with heroin. It's not like I went in a room one day and there were people in there doing heroin, so I decided to try it. That's not how it happened at all. I was on pain pills for about 4 years before I even touched heroin. I didn't do heroin until the last 2 years of my addiction. It started out, which I'm going to put a trigger warning here. We're going to be talking about addiction, drug use, and I'm going to go into descriptive detail. So if it triggers you to hear about addiction, talk of addiction, or to hear specific drug names, this is not the video for you. But my addiction started with oxycodone. That's what it started with. That's what I was prescribed after my surgery. And I ended up being put in it was kind of like what they would refer to it nowadays is like a pain clinic. So I was put in an actual clinic where they prescribe pain medicine in bulk, basically. And from there, I was put on Opanas. Now, when I started there, that's when my addiction got very bad. because Opanas were just really starting to be prescribed, and they are Satan in a Sunday suit. Like, they are the worst. Okay. My addiction went absolutely wild after that. That's when I really started to like lose things. Like, I started to lose my apartment, and I lost my car, and just everything. I mean, I've told you guys before, at the end of my addiction, I had one duffel bag with like six articles of clothing and a pair of flip-flops. Like, I had literally nothing. I was living in a hotel room. Um, from there, there was a day where one of my friends I was hanging around with couldn't find Opanas, and there was a dealer that I knew at the time who had started dealing H, and he told us that he could hook us up. So that's what we did. We did heroin for the first time. And I'm going to explain to you how you come to that decision when you are in active addiction, for those of you who do not understand addiction. I know for some of you, this is going to make sense. If you've been through addiction, you're going to be like, yeah, I get that. But if you haven't been through addiction, this is going to be really hard for you to understand. The only way that I can think to describe it is, imagine being under like complete and total hypnosis. You have no control over your thoughts. You have no control over yourself. The only thing that you're worried about is getting high. That is the only thing that you're concerned with, is getting high, your next high. That's all you care about. You don't care about working. You don't care about life. You don't care about your family. You don't care about your friends. You don't even really care about yourself. Literally, the only thing you care about is getting high. And you can't find the drug that you like, or you can't afford it. You will go to whatever you need to feel better. Because what happens is, excuse me, in addiction, is if you can't find your DOC or drug of choice, is you start to feel withdrawals after a certain period of time. And withdrawals are absolutely terrible, especially when you're on pain pills and heroin. It's incredibly terrible. Your whole body aches. It's, imagine the flu times 1,000. Like, it's absolutely dreadful. Your whole body aches. Like, it literally hurt me to take a shower, to take my shirt off. Like, it was misery. When I finally did detox and get clean, I was sick for about 6 months. I didn't feel actually normal for about 6 months. For the first like 5 days, I literally shit myself. I couldn't even like get up and go to the bathroom. Like, I crawled to the bathroom. My mom was crying, thinking I was going to die. Like, I was detoxing in my mom's house. Like, it was absolutely terrible. Okay. But it's so worth it. It's so worth it to be at the other side now and to know that I'm out of that. But it's hard to explain to someone who hasn't been there. If you're not in that situation and you're not dope sick, there's no way I can explain to you what dope sick feels like. Dope sick feels like all your brain literally cuts out the thought of anything else. I remember the last year of me getting high, that Christmas. You know, my whole family was getting together, and it had been years. I'd been estranged from my family for years. I was only concerned with getting high. And I wasn't on heroin for very long. Like I said, well, 2 years is still a long time, but I wasn't on heroin nearly as long as I was on pain pills, but I had been estranged from my family since I started heroin. And I remember like going through that day, and I'd spent the whole day trying to come up with money to get high. And that's the thing, like, you're on this chase, like, it's never enough. You never feel the same high again. Once you get that first high, you never feel it again. And the problem is that I was doing my drug use was intravenously. So in layman's terms, I was shooting up. For the last 3.5, 4 years of my addiction, I was 100% shooting up all of my dope. Um, the problem is, once you try it that first time, you can never successfully get that high again, ever. But you don't care about that. You don't even think about that. You don't think, well, I didn't get as high as I did the last time. The only thing you're thinking about is, I've got to get high again. I've got to feel better. That is your mind is in a constant thought process of trying to feel better. That is literally, your days are spent consumed with, what can I do to feel better? And it's not if, it's when you are going to lose jobs. your home, your cars, your friends, your family. It's a matter of time. It's like a ticking time bomb because you cannot expect people to be worried to death. My mom was worried every single day if her daughter was dead because I would go weeks and weeks and sometimes months without answering the phone for my mom or not having a phone at all. For the first little bit of my addiction, my family kept me with the phone so that they could make sure that I was alive. And then I would just sell them or trade them for dope. So they just quit buying me phones. I'll have scars on my hands. You guys ask me about these scars all the time. I'll have these on my hands for the rest of my life. There's one also over here. It's kind of hard to show right here. Well, there's the exposure's up too high, but there's one right here. You can kind of see it right there. Those are all track marks. Well, these right here are actually from a surgery I had to have because I had an abscess on my arm. And that was because I decided to buy heroin and from somebody I didn't know, and it had elephant tranquilizers in it. And that dope was literally eating my arm away. Um, and I'm so grateful that I didn't lose my arm. They told me that I was losing my arm. When I was rushed back into the emergency room, I was in so much pain. My arm and my hand was literally the size of like a log, like a tree stump. It was insane that my skin stretched that far. Um, and my hand still to this day will swell. If you can see, like this finger right now is very swollen. That's just a side effect that I have now from drug use. My teeth are incredibly bad because of drug use. I'm saving up now to get myself veneers. Um, there's a lot of things that are ruined, that I've ruined because of my drug use. But you don't think about any of these things. When you're in the moment and when you're getting high, you don't think about this is going to ruin the rest of my life. You're not thinking about I'm going to spiral out of control. You're not thinking about what am I going to do to stop getting high. You don't think about the detox. You don't think about any of that. You don't. You really and truly don't. And not everybody's story starts with a prescription like mine. A lot of people's does. Some people's just starts by hanging out with the wrong people or because they just wanted to try something new. And you try it that one time, and before you know it, years have passed by. You've lost everything you have. You have literally nothing. I was certainly grateful in my journey. I never went to jail. Knock on wood. Um, I never stole from anybody or done anything like that, but I have plenty of friends and I sponsor plenty of people who have been through situations like that where they, prostituted themselves out for it and everything else. I'm very grateful that my story never went that way, but there's so many people in the world who have been through so much worse than me. Every recovery story is different, but the reason that I talk about my addiction and recovery on my platform is because I want people out there that are still in active addiction to know that recovery is possible. It is possible. It's hard as hell. It is a daily thing. There are still people who message me to this day on Facebook or whatever from my past. They don't have my number, but they message me on social media. I had one person comment on a video asking if I want to get high or if I want this drug or that drug. It's a constant struggle. You think about it all the time. Even sometimes I'll drive past this certain part of town where I was running at the time, right before I got sober. Um, I think about it all the time, but there's no real way to explain this question here that I got. Which again, for the people who just got here, I'll reread this question. Um, I'm 100% not trying to be judgmental. I genuinely want to understand with all the warnings and stories you hear about people ruining their lives with drug addiction. What made you want to try H for the first time? Which I did explain that. It wasn't I wanted to, it was that my DOC or drug of choice was unattainable that day. I couldn't find anybody with it. And also, heroin is a lot more affordable than Opanas still to this day. And when we found that out, it was just, it was a downhill from that point, because you could have like 10, 15, $20 and get enough heroin to be high for half the day, whereas you have to have 85 to 100. So once an addict finds that out, that's just, you know, you don't even care that it's heroin. That literally never even, I think back to that moment and it never even crossed my mind to be concerned that it was heroin. I was like, okay, okay, and we went and got it. I mean, there was no thought process. That's the thing. When you're in active addiction, there is no adulting going on. There is no weighing the pros and cons of things. It's off to the races. It is off to the races. Um, I can only imagine what it would be like to be in that situation, but just feel like I'd be so worried about spiraling out of control and it taking over my life that I can't imagine even trying drugs. Which this is very interesting because my family has a long line of addiction in it. Um, and I knew that it was bad. When I was first prescribed pain pills, I was so naive. I was basically raised by my grandparents for the most part, and I really didn't know. When I first was prescribed them, I had no clue, but then when, I started to get better through therapy and stuff and stopped having to take the pain pills, I was like, "Whoa, why do I feel this way?" And I didn't want to feel that way. So I started to buy them on the streets. And there it goes. You're just off to there is no rhyme or reason for why an addict does what they do. The only reason is they need to be high. They need to feel better. The only thing that they're trying to do is make themselves feel better. When they're stealing from you, they're only trying to get money to feel better. And for me, and different addicts do handle it different ways, but for me, I blocked my family and friends, anyone who cared about me, Chris included. We went to high school together, and all he wanted for me was to be sober. He's wanted to marry me since we were kids. um and he would beg me to get sober, and I would tell him to go fuck himself. Like, there's messages, if I go back in Facebook, you know, um, I would cuss my mom out and block her number and have my mom worrying sick where I was. Like, you do not care. The only thing you care about is when and how you are going to get high next. There is no peace in addiction at all. None. None. Why even take the chance of trying it if you know it could end up bad? Again, I've already explained this. You don't even think of that. Once you're in addiction, and for me, by the time that I tried heroin, I was already full-fledged addicted. It didn't even cross my mind. It didn't even I knew plenty of people on heroin at the time. And I had been offered it before that, but I was like, "No, I'm good. I had what I wanted." Um, so the only time that I was like, "Okay, well, it's not even a question. It's like, let's go," was when I couldn't find what I wanted to get high. And at that point, I was like, "Okay, well, let's go." And then she says down here again, I know these questions probably sound ignorant as fuck. Again, they're not ignorant. When That's what this platform is to help people who've never been through addiction understand what it's like to go through an addiction. And for the people who are in active addiction currently to know that there is hope, that it is possible, and to also be there for other recovering addicts, to make friends, to have someone to talk to that they can relate to. But I hope you take it the way it's intended, which is genuine curiosity. I've never struggled with an addiction, so it's hard for me to put myself in that headspace, but I would like to understand. And I told her that I would go live to do a better explanation of addiction and what it looks like and all those things. Um, yes. But yeah, I hope that helps everyone. Let's read some of the stuff in the comments here now and see if there's any other questions. Journey says, you don't know me, but I'm very proud of you. You are so strong for speaking about this. Sending much love and light. Thank you, Journey, for your comment. That's very sweet. Sally says, hey, hi, Sally. Suzanne says, hello, just stopping by. I admire your strength and growth. Thank you, Suzanne. Sally says, I can just imagine what you've been through. I admire your strength. Every addict goes through the same process. Just to give you a little bit of an idea into, and if you are in active addiction, I want you to know what I'm about to explain. Yes, it was hard, but yes, it was worth it. So I want you to understand that if you are in active addiction watching this. The detox process is the worst feeling I've ever felt in my life. My whole body hurt. My stomach ached worse than I can ever imagine. I didn't eat. I didn't sleep I don't think I slept for like 3 days. It was so bad. All you do is lay there and sweat, but you freeze. I literally shit myself on day 2. It hurt to bathe. It hurt to move. It hurt to do anything. And it took me 6 months to feel quote unquote normal, to feel like Morgan again. And with all of that, with the years of struggle and, everything I lost and the years I lost, the last years I lost with my nanny, the years I lost with my nieces and nephews, the years I lost with Chris, which thankfully I had a man who waited on me, thank God. Not everybody is as lucky as me. Not everybody makes it out of addiction. And I think it's important that if you've been through it, share your story, no matter how embarrassing or whatever it may be for you. Share your story. It's going to help somebody, I promise. There's somebody out there that feels hopeless, and you can help them feel hopeful. And that's what this is all about. Paige Lynn says everyone thinks you can do it just one time. Yes, that is true. In the beginning, I hung out with many people who thought, oh, well, I'm just going to try it this once. And some of them are still in active addiction to this day. I reach out to them and help them as much as I can. The other questions that I got a lot underneath this video was people who have family members in active addiction and asking my advice on giving them money. In my personal opinion, as a recovering addict, I would not give an addict in active addiction money. What you can do is you can pay for them a hotel room to make sure they're somewhere safe. You can buy them a bus pass. You can buy them food to make sure that they have food to eat and drinks to drink. I wouldn't buy them anything of value, nothing that they could trade in. Motels have phones. They can call locally if you need to talk to them, because honestly, more than likely, they're going to trade in the phones eventually. After a matter of time, they get comfortable enough with their dealer. They can just go over anytime. That's what happened with me. The only person that I felt that I had the need to communicate to. So I literally traded my iPhone to dealers, several iPhones. If that were it, the people that I try to help who are still in active addiction, people that I knew, then like I said, I help them with their motel rooms or their rent or whatever, their light bill, whatever I can do. But at some point, tough love is what eventually got me out of addiction. And for some people, that's what it takes. And if you feel like someone is continuously using you who's in addiction, active addiction, sometimes you do have to play that tough love role. And I know it's hard. And I know it's scary to not know where your baby is or the person you love is. But sometimes to protect yourself, to protect your other children, to protect what you have in life, sometimes you have to do that. I just pray for every addict tonight, everyone who's in active addiction tonight. I pray for them. I hope they're okay. I pray for their recovery. I love you guys. If you have any other questions, be sure to just shoot them underneath this live. It'll stay on my channel. I love you guys so much. Until the next time. Bye, guys.